Hi, I'm Jacob Gallucci, and I'd like to talk about the Super Bowl today. And last week, my predictions were correct. I picked the Ravens and 49ers to win, and they were both very good games. I'm just so happy the Patriots lost. I'm sick of them. They've been in enough Super Bowls. It's time for some new blood in there. I mean, enough. And that 49ers Falcons game was a good game too. I felt so bad for the Falcons. I mean, they had a 17-point lead. They were up 17-0 and they blew it. In the second half, they didn't score a single point. They had two chances to score. They were in 49ers territory, but Matt Ryan threw the interception and then he fumbled on the next drive, and that was so frustrating. And it was weird. The Patriots didn't score in the second half of their game either, so I'm just so glad they lost. I mean, but in a nutshell, I think the 49ers are going to beat the Ravens, mainly because Colin Kaepernick is so fast and athletic that the Ravens' old defense they're gonna have a hard time keeping up with them. I mean, Ray Lewis is retiring after this game. Ed Reed's almost done. Terrell Suggs is older, and Kaepernick is so young and fast that the Ravens' aging defense will have a hard time against them the whole game. I'll go into more detail about Super Bowl 47 next week on next Friday's video. But today I'd like to present, excuse me, today I'd like to present a list of the 5 best Super Bowls that I've ever seen. Super Bowl 47 will be the 18th Super Bowl that I've seen. The first Super Bowl that I saw was Super Bowl 30 with the Dallas Cowboys and the Pittsburgh Steelers. It was in January of 1996. I was 7 at the time, and it was 2 months before I turned 8, and the game was okay, but Neil O'Donnell, I think he threw that game. He totally did. I mean, those interceptions to Brown were just they were thrown right to Larry Brown. I could have caught those. I mean, it was just so ridiculous. But here's a list of the best Super Bowls I've ever seen. I've seen 17 of them, and here are my top 5. There's one that just missed the top 5. It was the honorable mention. It was Super Bowl 38. Super Bowl 38 was the one that featured Janet Jackson's nipple. Remember, Justin Timberlake ripped it at the end of the halftime show, and they saw her nipple. That was so controversial at the time. Unfortunately, that overshadowed the game. It really did. It was a great game too. The Patriots won 32-29 over the Carolina Panthers, and the weird thing about that game was that it was scoreless until right before halftime. And at that point, the Patriots were up 14-10. Neither team scored in the third quarter, and in the fourth quarter, both teams scored a combined 37 points, which is still a Super Bowl record. It's unbelievable. Let's see. New England scored 18 points in the fourth quarter, and Carolina scored 19. It was really an exciting game, but for most of it, it was kind of boring, and it was still a great game, but it just missed my top 5. Number 5 for me was Super Bowl 43 with the Steelers beating the Cardinals 27-23. That was such an exciting game. It was great to see the Cardinals finally get to the Super Bowl. I mean, the Arizona Cardinals are such a they've suffered for so many years. They're such a long-suffering franchise. I really think they're cursed. Everywhere they've been, Chicago, St. Louis, and Arizona, they've had such little success, and it was so great to finally see them make it to the Super Bowl. And I wish they had won, but the Steelers won in the last minute, and it was still great to see the Cardinals make it though. And number 4 for me was the Patriots and the Rams. That was Super Bowl 36. The Patriots won that game on a last-second field goal by Adam Vinatieri. They won that game 20-17. That was such a great game. It was a monster upset at the time because the Rams were still really good, and they had just won Super Bowl 34 2 years before, and the Patriots were a young team that year. You know, Brady was in his first year as a starter. He had taken over for Drew Bledsoe. Bledsoe had gotten hurt earlier in the year, and it was such an upset. I mean, the Rams, they still had Kurt Warner, and Marshall Faulk and Isaac Bruce. That team was so good, and it was really a good game. And number three for me is Super Bowl 32. That's the one where the Broncos beat the Packers 31-24. I was so happy that John Elway won. I mean, he in the three previous Super Bowls he had played in, the Broncos were destroyed in all of them. They got blown out in all three games before that, and I'm just so happy I'm so happy that John Elway won that game. I mean, I've always liked him. He was such a great quarterback, and I was so happy the Packers lost. You know, being a Bears fan, I was so happy the Packers lost that game, and that was the first good Super Bowl that I saw. It really was. The first two I saw, Super Bowls 30 and 31, they were okay, but the first classic game I saw was the first classic Super Bowl that I saw was Super Bowl 32. Number two, the second best Super Bowl that I saw was Super Bowl 42. The Giants beat the Patriots 17-14. I was so happy the Patriots lost that game. They're the team that I absolutely hate the most. I just dislike the Patriots. The only team I might dislike less are the Cowboys. The Cowboys are my second most disliked team, and the Patriots for me are number one. I just can't stand the Patriots. Belichick is such a jerk. He really is. Bill Belichick is such a jerk, and I was so happy they lost that game, and I was so happy that their undefeated season finally it ended. I was just so happy that they lost that game. And Eli Manning almost getting sacked on that play, that long pass to David Tyree, that's one of the best plays that I've ever seen. The fact that Eli Manning was able to get out of being sacked and complete that long, amazing pass to Tyree was unbelievable. It was such a great game. I was just so happy the Patriots lost. And the best Super Bowl that I saw, number one all time for me, was the Rams and the Titans. That's Super Bowl 34. The Rams won that game 23-16. And the Titans were stopped at the 1 yard line. They were 1 yard short of taking the game into overtime. They would have gotten a touchdown and they would have had to kick the extra point, but it was just a great game. To come up 1 yard short of tying the game and taking it to overtime, it was just an unbelievable finish. It was a great game, and I'm so happy that the Rams won because they were so good that year. Kurt Warner was amazing. I mean, he came out of nowhere and he had an MVP season. It was just unbelievable. And it was I've seen some really good Super Bowls in my life, fortunately. A lot of the earlier ones, like back in the 70s and 80s and the early 90s, a lot of them were blowouts, and most of those games were over by halftime, and the second half was just so boring, and the games at the end just were really boring, and they were so lopsided that people just lost interest by the time the second half started. And I'm fortunate to have seen so many good games in the last 15 to 20 years, and I'm hoping this year's Super Bowl will be just as good as some of the last few. And anyway, I'm sorry for rambling, and tomorrow I'll present the list of the 5 worst Super Bowls that I've seen, and I'll discuss that in detail tomorrow. And until then, take care.